Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our next live stream. I'll be your producer for this session. Before we start, I do have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional, and on topic. Keep an eye on that chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions for our presenters to answer live. Our session is being recorded. It will be available to view on demand right here on the Reactor channel. With that, I'd love to turn it over to our speakers for today. Thank you for joining.
Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, evening, night for everyone here. Today, I am excited to do this session of Get Certified in SQL+AI DP-800. And we are going to be talking about bringing AI to SQL with embedding, search, and RAG. And this is part of the Fabric database. So welcome all to this journey. And as I mentioned before, this section is going to be about bringing AI to SQL with embedding, search, and RAG. My name is Gaston Cruz. I am Microsoft Data Platform MVP. There's a lot of ways to connect with me on LinkedIn, via email, X, and so on. I'm a Microsoft MVP for the last 10 years or so, and I've been working with Microsoft technologies almost for all my life, 30 years at least, and happy to be here and really excited to share this session with my good friend, Armando. Armando, introduce yourself.
Hey, Gaston. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Again, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever you're connecting from. My name is Armando Lacerda. I've also been around Microsoft Tech for almost 40 years. And for me, I've been a Microsoft certified trainer for over 30 years. And first I started as a developer, a long time ago, like 3 lives ago. But for the past 25 years, I've been very focused on SQL Server platform. I have certified in every single SQL Server version since 7.0. And happy to be here with Gaston to share some knowledge and tips on how to get certified on DP-800.
That is awesome, Armando. And going back to couple of news and couple of disclaimers around communities and how we are running this overall learning experience. One of the things that I would love to bring is this is part of what we call the 60 days of data and AI, and this is powered by community. It is great if you can check this QR code and you can sign to the database. There's a lot of information coming in terms of different communities, different engagement, different contests that you are going to be sharing on this one, and you're going to see a lot of excitement coming from a community standpoint. And the other big topic is get Fabric or SQL certified for free. Everybody is chiming in on this one, and you have that URL where you can go and check and submit to get vouchers and doing these exams totally for free. And there's vouchers for DP-600, DP-700 in the Fabric space, as well the DP-800. There is a whole new exam on SQL and AI that you can chime in and get certifications for free. You can prepare the exams, you can do a Q&A, you can bring all your knowledge in one single place, and then you can certify. And why you should be certified, because one of the strong shop requirements in many companies is having certified consultants, certified SQL consultants, SQL knowledge, and that is really important to get that certification up and running, to understand what it's going to take for you to prepare the exam. And this is why we are here today with Armando, is to explain a little bit the details of how you prepare the exam, how deep you need to understand in terms of the different sections of the exams, and how it's going to look like, to bring the exam up and running, even if you're taking this exam from home, from your home office, or you're going to any proctor department and going there and say, hey, I would love to do the exam here, because it's an isolate place where you can go and take your exams. So that there's two options there: online or in person.
Yeah, I've been taking proctored exams online from home since they came out. It's super comfortable. You just have to make sure that you have the right environment, nothing around you. No big deal, just make sure you have an environment where you're not going to be disturbed. And like you said, Gaston, getting certified, it's a big plus for the career, and also for self improvement. Like, because the when you get certified, like that's like the cherry on top of the cake. The real benefit is doing this, studying and get to understand what Microsoft is highlighting from the product, and what Microsoft really wants people to be aware of and be able to leverage when they go and work with their projects, right? Take advantage of those things. For me, in my own experience, I love taking these exams because if I don't get to know what is new and what can be done in the newer versions, I keep using the product like it was SQL Server 2000, and never get to see any of the new features.
Yeah, that is right. And the advices that Armando bring to the table, they're really important. If you are doing this, and maybe this is your first exam that you're taking in the Microsoft scope, and you are thinking about doing this in your home because you have your home office or whatever, be sure that you have the space for that, that
Yep.
you have a room dedicated for that you put some sign outside your room saying, hey, don't come in, isolate the environment, uh, don't take that as an easy path. Just trying to think about, hey, I need to isolate the room. I don't need more than what I need in the room. Trying to think about how you can block that time just for you and for the exam. That means
Yeah.
that you have
The whole
everything together.
Yeah, the whole guide is there on the website. Take a look on and read the directions. And like you said, free is good, right? If you have a chance to get the free exam, go for it. So get the QR codes and take advantage.
Exactly. The other big topic is, you're not alone. You're in a community, and how we learn from community. So be sure that you check that URL that we are showing right now. That is the way where you can join a study group. And that means that, if we both join with Armando in a study group, I'm going to go and say, hey, and this is kind of one of the common questions from the chat that I was just trying to check a little bit of what others are writing right now, is how if I came from a different world? Maybe I am a data analyst, maybe I am a Power BI developer, and that is where you take advantage. Maybe I get someone like Armando working on SQL since 2000, and I can ask him some questions, because we are both preparing the same exam, we are doing the study group together. And Armando maybe kind of take advantage. Hey, Gaston maybe is kind of knows everything that comes from a data analyst perspective, and I can share my knowledge and my real experience in a study group coming from different directions. And that is how we start sharing knowledge across the community. And this is really important, because become a member of a data community is really priceless. Meaning, it's great to share your knowledge, it's great to share your journey, it's great to check with others ways to study for this certification, what makes them successful. Maybe I was doing a PL 300 exams about Power BI, and then Armando is bringing the knowledge about doing a lot of certifications in SQL, and we can share knowledge and we can learn from each other. So please go and check this kind of URLs, join the study group, because you're going to be learning a lot and you're going to be making a lot of connections out of the community.
Yeah, browse the website. It's beautiful and it has tons of groups all over the world, multiple languages. Yeah, don't be alone. Don't be alone. Traveling together is usually better.
Yep. The other big topic is scanning this QR code. It's coming as a SQL AI promptathon. This is a kind of a contest around the SQL, and it's going to be great to get engagement from all over the place. And you can scan this QR code, you can go to that URL, and you can find a lot of resources about this one. So feel free to join this, scan the QR, or going directly to the URL, and you're going to be learning the process of getting this SQL AI promptathon.
That's a fun one. Go check it out.
Yeah,
Because the way you talk to AI is through prompts and exercising on writing prompts for SQL to get things done in SQL through AI with the better prompt. It's a fun exercise, and there are prizes, so why not, right?
exactly. And a couple of more topics before we start with the kind of core of the session. But showing the Fabric user panel, Fabric IQ user panel, SQL user panel, why this is important, why you should be getting these QR codes or going directly to those URLs, because it's really important for Microsoft as well to get feedback from all of us as a client, as a consumers of the technology. So we can shape the roadmap of products. And that means that if you are doing things in Power BI, Fabric, SQL, and you would love to see more features or different approaches to some topics, you can provide that feedback right away to the product engineer team out of Microsoft. So go there, you can join the Fabric user panels. There's multiple new features coming, and you can provide feedback around that. Fabric IQ is the other one, and SQL user panel is the other one. This is really a great way to influence in the shape and the roadmap of these products.
Yeah, just think like that. Fabric and SQL, they are always under construction. There is always something being built to them. So if you want to participate and get that new feature working better for you and everybody else, that's your chance.
Yeah, exactly. And remember that this is a whole, journey in terms of how to get certified, and how you can get certified in with all the dates and get certifications up and running from one to the other. So the things is, all the different directions, all the different sessions that we have so far, and how to get certified. So you can break the DP-800 exams in multiple fields, and that means that you can get that sense of, hey, what is the path to get certified? And you can see that there's timings available in different regions. So at these kind of sessions, they're going to be a recording, you're going to be available. Of course, you don't want to miss these interactions with the team in the live chat right now, but it's great to check all the timings and follow the schedule, and you can see that there's many different sessions coming. Of course, we have a lot of support from a lot of friends on the community, and we have moderators in this YouTube channel right now. So feel free to go live, ask your questions, participate in the chat, and we have amazing moderators. So Chef is there, answering some of your questions. Filipa is as well, joining this YouTube channel and live answering questions from the community. And my friend Kevin Arnold is also in the chat, answering questions from the live interactions with the community.
Those are the real heroes here, right?
Yeah.
They are there in the
Yeah.
chat answering the machine gun questions. People like sending questions one after the other. So thank you to the moderators. Thank you, Kevin, and everybody else. Great to have you guys there.
Yeah, that's right. What we are covering today: we are talking about designing and implementing models and embedding with SQL. We are going to be talking about intelligent search with SQL. And then finally, we are ending up with RAG with SQL. And that, of course, is part of the journey of preparing the DP-800 certification. So around the exam, the DP-800, the main role is for the SQL developer. This is an intermediate exam, and there's different skills that we need to think around this exam. First of all, core platform. What we need to do on these exams, we need to know about Microsoft SQL Server, Azure SQL, and of course the workload of SQL databases in Microsoft Fabric. Key skills that you're going to be checking on this exam and these certifications is T-SQL. You need to learn and provide some deep dive on T-SQL development. Designing relational and semi-structured data models. You need to understand the process of building CI/CD with GitHub. AI fundamentals, embeddings, vectors, models. That is exactly what we will be talking today. And AI assist development tools. So the role here for the exam and to understand what is this certification for is, the role of building secure and scalable databases, integrate the AI in the databases, optimize how we deploy and govern SQL workloads, and working with developers, DBI architects on this approach. So you can check the URL in the bottom right section there to understand the deep details of how we qualify and what is going to be the certification look like for the DP-800.
Yeah, it's important, Gaston, to also kind of a highlight here that this exam is on the developer side. And if you are new to Microsoft certifications, it's great. You're gonna jump in here. You're good to go. If you're like me, if you have taken Microsoft exams before, you may recall that you used to have multiple SQL exams, right? We had the BI exams. We have a bunch of them, 4 or 5 SQL exams. Now we have pretty much 2, and Microsoft has not released a specific one for SQL Server in a few years. So notice that this is for development support, right? You are a SQL Server professional that's supporting application development and using SQL Server features to bring that AI touch, to the application that's under deployment. There is another certification for management, for the regular DBA approach, managed SQL Server, that goes into SQL Server, Azure SQL Server Administrator. It's kind of a hybrid, right? It goes on-premise, goes on into the cloud. So notice that the latest certification for Microsoft, and that's the point, is not much into infrastructure anymore. It's into development and feature exploration. Because with the advancement of cloud technologies and the adoption of platform as a service, and with Fabric, the software as a service, SQL as a software as a service, the focus on infrastructure goes smaller and smaller. So get good. That's the point. Get good on benefiting from the programming capabilities, the development capabilities of SQL Server.
Exactly. So this is the journey of foundations to intelligence. So what we think about, the exam, there's 35 to 40% that is all about design and develop the database solutions. There's another section that is the implement the data security and compliance, and that is another 35-40% of that, with some of the topics across this space. Those are the 2 different pillars. Today, with Armando, we are talking about the 3rd pillar of the DP-800 certification, that is how we implement AI capabilities in SQL. And that applies to implement search, embedding, vector, retrieve, augment, and the generation, or RAG. So those are the big topics on this 3rd pillar of the certification in the AI for SQL.
Yeah, when I took my exam, as you can see there, most of the questions were around pillar number 2. I got a lot of questions on those, but there were questions on this 3rd pillar, which is super cool because finally SQL Server has some AI support, not just some, but a lot of AI support, which we'll be exploring here. And when you are studying for your exam, don't be fooled by these percentages, right? Like, if I study pillar number 2, I have a better chance to pass because there'll be more questions around pillar number 1 and 2 than pillar number 3. Don't fall for that, all right? That's not how the exams are graded. There are other sessions. Take a look on YouTube later. You're going to find people explaining how exams are graded. Make sure you don't bypass anything and you go dive deep on each one of these features, all right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Uh, so now we are moving into what I think is one of the most exciting parts of the DP-800 certification. This is where traditional SQL development start intersecting with Gen AI. Over the next few minutes, we will look at how SQL can generate embeddings, work with external AI models, and prepare your data for intelligent search and ultimately RAG. If you've been working with SQL Server for years, this model is going to feel like a paradigm shift because SQL is not longer just where the data lives. It's becoming where AI happens. So let's jump in right away for that one. So now we are getting into the part that really changed how we think about SQL. For years, SQL has been the place where we stored and query the data. Today, SQL is becoming a place where we can also consume AI. So this section of create external model is really the bridge between those two different worlds. Instead of exporting data into another application, send it to an AI service, and then bringing it back, SQL can securely call the Azure AI directly. So one thing I always tell customers is this: don't hard code secrets inside your applications. You can use managed identity, for example, whenever possible. It's more secure, easier to maintain, and frankly, that's how Microsoft expect enterprise customer to build production solutions. So I spend most of my time helping Fortune 500 organizations modernize their data platform. Security always come before AI. If your security team isn't comfortable with the architecture, the project doesn't move forward. So that's why this section of create external model is such an important capability. So this is how you call, the AI embedding models.
Mm-hmm. For the exam, it's important. I think it's important to highlight, Gaston, that by design, when we talk to the Microsoft people, the engineers, Bob Ward, and some other people there, they made sure to drive this point. By design, SQL Server is partnership with the AI that exists out there, right? Because in the past, SQL Server has this tendency to bring services into the engine. So no, if I have external data sources, there is a poly-based thing inside SQL Server that goes to the external data sources. If I want to have a service broker in the old platform where SQL Server is doing the service broker services inside SQL Server instead of an event hub someplace else in the cloud. But with AI, SQL Server has partnership. So when we create an external model, we are actually connecting SQL Server to some AI model provider like Azure AI, right, in the cloud, AI Foundry. If it's on premise, we can use NVIDIA servers. As long as it's compatible, we have SQL Server work with something else to process the AI thing, right? The LLM thing. So all the AI processing is done outside SQL besides the search. The search is within SQL. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. Nothing is in terms of creating embeddeds and these things is done in SQL. It's always external to SQL.
Yeah, exactly. And a couple of things that I would love to recall is, first of all, when you think about the different options here, one of the questions always is, once we have access to the model, the next question becomes, what exactly should we send to it? So this is one of the common or most common mistakes I see in customer projects. So The people get excited about embeddings and want to embed almost everything. So don't do that. Only embed the information that actually has a semantic meaning on that. Imagine you're building a support portal. The product description, yeah, go ahead. The troubleshooting guide, yes, go ahead and embed that. Customer feedback, yes, but product ID 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, inventory quantity, order number, those don't benefit from embeddings because SQL already handles exactly that match extremely well. So that is a match in the SQL side of things. Here's is a real example. We work with organizations where users search for things like, hey, give me the report that explains delayed shipments in Florida. So nobody remembers the document name. Nobody remembers the SKU of the product. They are describing the meaning of the document. So that is exactly where embedding shines. So now what that we have, and we understand what we are embedding in the model, the next challenge is, what about the document size? What about if I have big documents in my repo structure? So if you have worked with large PDF or technical documentation, this slide becomes very practical. Large language models have token limits. So you cannot simply throw a 300-page operations manual into an embedded model. You have to split it into what we call chunks. And now here's where experience matters. If you split too aggressively, you lose the context. If your chunks are too large, search becomes less precise. So think about a company employment handbook, for example. Suppose an employee asks something like, how many weeks or parental leave do I receive? If your chunk starts halfway through one section and ends halfway through another section, the model may never retrieve the correct answer. So that's why preserving context is often more important than simply choosing a chunk size. Personally, I see paragraph-based chunking used very often in enterprise documentation because it naturally follows how humans organize information. Uh, that's how I follow the structure of making chunks in your data and documentations. Once the content is chunked, we are finally ready to generate the embeddings. So this pipeline is really the heart of semantic search. Think about it, I think about this as a manufacturing process. First you prepare the raw material, then you generate the embedding, then you store the embedding, then you index it, and only after that the users can search naturally. One thing I like about SQL Server 2025 is that the vector support is now native capability. You don't have to build custom workarounds anymore. The vector data type makes the experience much cleaner. So a question I often get from customers around this is, can I generate embeddings later? And the answer is absolutely. And that brings us directly into the next topic. The slide, the next slide represent exactly something many proof of concepts forget. Embeddings are The embedding piece is not a static feature. Your business change every day, your documentation change as well, your product catalog change, policies in your company also change. So if your embedding stay frozen, eventually your AI is going to be start answering questions using outdated information. So imagine your HR department updates the travel reimbursement policy yesterday. If your embedding were generated 6 months ago, your AI assistant is now giving employees the grown answer. So that's why maintenance is just as important as the generation of embeddings. Some customers prefer triggers because they want immediate updates. Others, they just prefer, 90 batch shops because they are processing millions and millions of documents. So neither approach is universally correct. The right answer is, depends on the business. So let's wrap this section with 5 ideas that I want everyone to remember. If you remember nothing else from this model that we are delivering today, remember these 5 things. The number one is create the external model. That is your secure bridge between SQL and AI. The number two is don't embed everything, only embed text with business meaning. The number three is chunking matters. Split your whole information and matters more than people expect. So good chunking produce good search results. The number four is AI generate embeddings together with the vector data type are the foundation of semantic search inside SQL. And finally, treat embeddings like any other business data. They require governance, monitoring, maintenance. As someone who spends a lot of time helping customers build AI platforms, I learned one lesson. And that lesson is companies getting the biggest value from AI are not necessarily using the largest model. So they are the ones with the best data foundation. Good data architecture still wins. So transition to the next one where Armando is going to picking up on this one. We've been focused on creating the intelligence. We connect SQL to AI models. We design meaningful embeddings. We chunk our documents. We generate vectors and discuss how to keep them up to date. Now comes, at least from my end, the fun part. How do we actually search across millions of those vectors and retrieve the relevant information? So that is exactly where Armando is taking us to this journey. And next, as we move into the intelligent search with SQL. Go for it, Armando.
There we go. Yeah, very important what Gaston just mentioned, right? In the exam, there will be this portion about getting ready to leverage AI inside SQL. So as Gaston mentioned, SQL does not process the AI creation. We do have natural text. Gaston did a really good job explaining that. This AI thing is about text. It's about string data, text data, and descriptive data. So forget about the numbers, right? There is another way to approach the number thing, quantity and these things codes. We're talking about large language model, emphasis on the language. So we are creating a representation of the text, the language that we have in the table, as a vector. And the last thing that Gaston mentioned, which is super important, which is when we transform it into embedding, if something changes in the text, we have to find an approach to change the embedding, right? So they can match each other. You're kind of duplicating the data. One is pure text, the other one is vector. So we have to have your strategy. So Gaston, thank you for highlighting that. Once the basis is laid out, now it's time to benefit from it. So like if there is an application already running in your company and now AI is there, and the most common place on AI today, which used to be the big thing, is be able to talk to my data. If I want a legacy application to benefit from that, I can just have that in SQL and have change almost nothing in the application, just have the application benefiting from the new features inside SQL. And here they are. Once I have the vector representation of the text in SQL Server in my table, I can go and start doing searches on the meaning, not string pattern search like we would do with the like operator in SQL Server, but actually using AI, look into the meaning of the text in the table. So here in this, here in this slide, we have full text search, vector search and the union of both, right? And the mix of both, with which is a hybrid search. If you've been around SQL Server for a while, you know that full text search has been there since when? I think since forever, since SQL Server 7.0.
Long time.
Say what?
Yeah, a long time ago.
For a long time. So SQL Server has been supporting full text search for a very long time. So before LLMs were a thing, from like 3-4 years ago, that was already there. So with LLM, does that mean I should ditch what I have been already implemented in full text search if I have benefit from that before? And the answer is no. You don't have to ditch it, right? You can actually use both, because they use similar, they use different approaches to how they deal with the text semantics. So if you do full text search, you may be looking for exact words, which you cannot do with embeddings, right? Embed is going to meaning and approximation. You can find synonyms based on the thesaurus definition on the full text search, while in the vector, you work with synonyms based on utilization and what the model has seen, which is way more flexible and updates every time in the model updates. Handle typos, not very well supported in full text search. It's better supported in vector search. So you can do, like, as you can see here, depending what you want to do, you may benefit from both or adopt just one. But if you adopt both, you have the benefit of using both together in the predicate, in the where clause, and have SQL Server matching either one. So the bottom line here is AI support in SQL with large language models does not exclude full text search. You don't have to retire full text search in your application to benefit from vector search, and the other way around is not true either, right? You can use one or the other depending on what you want to do, or you can use both, so you can benefit from both. And the next slide is about implementing full text search. So this is not new in SQL Server, right? This has been there forever, like we just mentioned. It's about enabling full text search and creating, letting SQL Server cataloging the text you want the full text search to create the metadata behind the scenes, and then using one of those 4 functions, right? Query functions that are specifically for full text search. So contains and free text, they return results as rows, so they usually go into the where clause, while contains table and free text table, they do the same thing, but they return tabular results. So we can use in join, you can use in join operators, you can use in cross, right? Doing the cross and some other operations in SQL. So those goes where you want to have the result as a table, and you'll be able to do a cross join with some other regular tables you have. So just 2 operations, contains and free text, and they go into the thesaurus, they go into some text meaning, and that has been there forever. This is not AI, this is regular SQL Server support. Now, the next slide is what is new in SQL Server 2025, right? Once I have the vector data, and in case you haven't seen that before, vector data is just a numeric representation of the text that you created the embedded for, right, Gaston?
Yeah.
You get the text, and you send to the model, and the model will get that text, compare with the model version that you're using with, process through, not compare, rather say process through the model you're working with, and then it will return a matrix of numbers, right? It's this vector thing. So that's the new thing in SQL Server. There is a vector data type, like Gusto mentioned, to store the thing. And with that vector, when you want to search for something, you also have to get your search criteria, whatever statement it was written by the user. No, find me a product that is good for wintertime. So get that text that the user has typed in, and you have to create an embedding of that text, because you can only compare vector with vector. So when you get those 2 embeddings, you can apply a search. Now, you are a SQL Server professional, I'm assuming, right? So when you search in a table, you can do either full text search. You can do either full table scan, right? You can go the table from top to bottom, which is usually not efficient. Or you can use an index to try to narrow down the rows you want to compare. And this is what this slide is all about, right? There is a specific index strategy for the vector data type. And you can see both of them there, right? The KNN and the ANN. Some people call N. So the KNN and N, which is exact nearest and approximate nearest neighbors, right? Each one of them will have a particular approach to them. I'm not going to go really deep into them. Go in your study and get familiar with them. The bottom line is one will give you like 100% recall, more precise one in here. I see on the top box there on the KNN, while the other one is what is it there? With small accuracy for massive speed, right? So searches through ANN approach, they tend to give you faster results with less precision, while the precision here is the meaning, right? The precision meaning, and the KNN the other way around. And what they do behind the scenes is like the cosine and the Euclidean approach to comparison. So this goes into a little bit of math and statistics, which is pretty cool. Take a look on it. For the exam, the things you gotta figure to keep in mind here is you are comparing vector to vector, so you have to create embedding for both the data that's in the table that Gaston already explained before, and the criteria that just arrived from the application. So you're gonna make calls to the model to create the embeddings. Remember, SQL Server does not create those embeddings. They are created by external calls to the models. And then if the table is big enough to justify creating an index, you choose one of the two types of index there. Right, Gaston?
Yeah, exactly. And besides this, I love the interaction between Chef, our moderator, with the audience right now, asking kind of a quiz, a question about what is ANN, and you can see right there in the slide, ANN is what Armando explained before, the approximate nearest neighbor. So I love those interactions with the live connections and community right now. So keep coming, keep the questions coming, and I love the live chat right now in the channel.
Kudos again for our moderators there on YouTube, live on YouTube. If you are watching this in a recording, you missed out, right? You could answer your questions, but you're welcome to connect with Gaston and me through LinkedIn and the moderators if you like, and keep the conversation going over there. All right. So in SQL Server, the benefit of using SQL Server as a basis for your AI implementation and doing vector search instead of relying on, for instance, Azure Search or some other external services in there, is because you're doing it with SQL, right? You're using SQL Server. So if I want to find rows on my table that matches a particular LLM process embedding, I use just regular SQL Server, right? Select top 10 columns that I have. And now I am using here specific functions to do the search, right? So in here on this code snippet that's there, it's not really doing the search. It's just showing you the results of the vector distance. And what you do is call this vector distance function on the where clause. So it's not there on the on the example there, but they usually show on the where clause. And you are looking for results where the vector distance, which is usually a cosine calculation of the lines drawn by the embeddings, you're doing a vector distance where they are close to each other. So you want to have, see, order by dist. Dist is the column for the vector distance. Order by dist. So the columns that are close to zero, the distance is close to zero, they are close in meaning to each other, so they're more likely to match the criteria that was sent over. And this is what you do, right? You just do where vector distance, order by vector distance, and whatever shows on top is your probable matching results. And here's the thing, Gaston. This is one of the things that we should really highlight. When we are doing vector search, you're looking for distance. So we are interested in the ones that are close to 0 in distance. So the where clause, even though it can be used to search to narrow that, your top criteria with the order by actually work better as your predicate. So if I do top 10 order by, I'm looking for the top 10 rows there is a criteria, right? It's a predicate. For the top 10 rows, they're matching better the criteria that was sent over as the embedding. So pretty cool, right? It's not really in the where clause, it's in the order by.
Exactly.
And the vector search on the other end does give you a similar approach, but on the from clause, not on the order by. So like the full text search, where you have contains and contain tables, here you have a vector distance and vector search in a similar fashion. Cool. Moving on, hybrid search and reciprocal ranking function. On the hybrid search here, as you can see here on the reciprocal RFF, right? If you're, these acronyms, they sometimes they kill us, right? What is this RFF thing? It's right there, reciprocal rank function. And the idea is to make the calculation of the full text search and the vector search together, right? When you do the hybrid, remember a couple of slides back, we were talking about using both services together. So when you mix both and you apply that RRF formula over there, you can have the best results from both calculations. So if full text search gives me this result, and the embedding gives me this result, the vector search gives me this result. If I make that particular calculation there, and again, I can get into the details in the documentation, whatever you have K around 60 controls to control the rank sensitivity, there is a good chance that you will get the best results when you have both services working for you, right? The best accurate results from your predicates. So using both contains and vector distance, and applying the formula there with the result of both, right? Remember, vector distance gives you a number in between 0 and 1, and 0 is super close, 1 is nothing to do with each other. So if you use that and apply the rank of the result in the full text search with a balanced, right, using the K, constant K there around 60, you may more likely, what Microsoft Labs has been telling us, you more likely have the best accurate results if you have both services running. And of course, this is a talk for your exam, so dive deep into, all right? Okay, the last one here, evaluating the search performance. In terms of recall, what percent of relevant documents were found, right? On KNN, it's usually 100% recall. You got the whole thing in there. For the disk N, you get about 80%. You do have the index overhead and precision of the index, depending what you do. The index overhead for embeddings is high, right? So usually you don't benefit if you have a smaller table. You only benefit from index when you have larger tables. In large tables, it's a kind of a subjective definition. You really have to see how big how many rows you have and how big your descriptions are. So always keep in mind doing some performance metrics on that one and see how things work on your particular use case. So to summarize this last section there, the takeaways: full text search is not retired. You should keep using it if your solution was using it before, and you can use it together with embeddings. The vector distance is when you do embeddings. The KNN got better precision, but takes longer, while disk N has a little lower precision, but performs better. And at scale, the speed and performance really makes a difference when compared to KNN. The approximating T-SQL keywords is important for both of them when calculating the similarity of the embeddings. RRF is the approach we use when we have both full text and embeddings, and when we mix the results of both of them, right? When we have the engine searching using the two methods and combining the results. And the cosine distance is the most common way to compare embeddings based on how close the meaning of the word of the statement, not the words, but the actual statements are. So there we go. And now the last part, right? Last 10 minutes, last part of our of our prep here for DP-800, which is the RAG. So Gaston, what is RAG? Do you remember what this acronym means?
Yeah, the retrieve augment generation, and knowing when to use RAG versus different alternatives. This is a key exam skill. RAG is ideal when you need answers ground in your specific enterprise data. Like chatbots, frequently asked question systems. You need explainable recommendations. Based on your actual data. You need summaries of your data. Rather than generic AI output. You need more reviews against your specific standards.
Exactly. I was missing you, hearing you. Your voice is so rounded. I was missing me listening to you. But that's exactly what Gaston said. And here's the thing: the previous section was about applications that are using SQL. We can do little tweaks on the application and having them doing vector search. And now we have legacy applications that are benefiting from vector search, which is an AI feature, and be able to collect information based on text meaning for regular applications. Great. Here on this topic here is like, I do have an AI solution, perhaps an AI agent running somewhere. And those AI solutions, those agents, they are using models that were trained with public data that exists out there in the public internet. And they're very well trained, but they don't know about my company. The data that is in my tables, in my SQL database, those models, they haven't seen that data. They were not trained in that data. So as Gaston just mentioned, if we want to ground, meaning when I'm looking for something, when my agent that's running out there, not in SQL, right? It's running in AI Foundries, running on another platform, an NVIDIA platform, or someplace else. If they want to benefit from the data that I have in SQL that I have created embedded for them already, right? I created the embeddings, and the embeddings is stored in SQL. I can have those AI native applications augmenting their knowledge by leveraging the vectors in my SQL database. So what this section is all about is we want to use SQL Server as a RAG source for the native AI application, so they're able to answer questions based on my company's proprietary data that will never show up on the internet. The models will never be trained on those, but they can answer questions as long as the data has been embedded and they are in SQL. So we want to use that for like customer support chatbot. Gaston mentioned that earlier in the session. Internal fax systems, everything that's around my company business, and the data is private to my company, and now the data is in SQL Server. If the data is somewhere else, you're not going to use SQL, right? If the data is in a SharePoint or in OneDrive someplace, you're going to use other resources. But if the data in SQL, you don't have to take the data out of SQL. You can just embed creating the embeddings of the data in SQL, and then let the AI native applications working with those embeddings. Pretty cool, right, Gaston?
Yeah, this is awesome, and thinking about now, what is the pipeline look like to leverage this RAG strategy, So this is an overall section for that.
Yeah. So the workflow that is suggested here, there are some variations to this workflow, but the main idea is the application will look into the SQL database and search for the rags that are in the, search for the embeddings that are in there as a source of the rag, and format that into JSON, and may perhaps send it somewhere else for catalog, for MCP server tooling, things like that. And then when the prompt comes, it will generate the results. We're going to make a call, of course, to generate those results and get the prompt embedded, and then get the data back to whoever is calling, right? One final note in there on this slide, why rag in SQL Server is just because the data is already in SQL. I don't want to get the data out of SQL. Don't want to do data migration. I don't want to, have a big lag between what is in SQL and what is in the rag. As long as the data is in SQL and I adopt a strategy that fits my use case to keep the rag up to date, just have the applications come and ground themselves in what is in SQL. Cool. So the next slide gives us some code snippet, right, about how to do that. Step number one is to get the relevant context. So if you're searching, you have a prompt there that's searching for something, we're going to use the vector distance as we have seen before. Notice that here they're using the vector distance with the cosine method, right, for the vector comparison, the line comparison using the vector matrix, and putting that into some temporal table, right? In some temp table not temporal table, sorry. Temporal table is something else. Some temp table, right, Gaston?
Yeah.
Some temp table in SQL Server. And we are collecting from the table we already have. So give me the prompt. I'm going to go search for the thing. I'm going to take you the top 5. If I'm using top 5, usually I have an order by somewhere that's not showing on the code, but it's fine. We get the top 5 in there, and that is the grounding that the client will receive. The next slide shows that after doing that retrieval of relevant context, we'll see a payload into a compatible JSON format that usually when rags are tapped into, the result goes back in that particular format. So we have a title and a content for the result, or you can even add the role as a system prompt for the prompt that's coming in, and also assign descriptions like the user. So the prompt structure, you get it built in SQL Server using the new SQL JSON functions. They are easier to create JSON payloads. There will be another session here on Reactor to show how those things work. So take a look on the JSON functions later. And the last slide there shows that once you have the payload created and get the prompt created, you send that prompt over the model that is being used in the back end. And the model will use whatever the model knows, plus whatever was retrieved by the first query we added in the context to ground the result on the context that we have retrieved, and we send that to the model. So notice that the model is benefiting from the embeddings, the result embeddings that came from SQL Server based on the search, and the model can give the customer or the agent or whoever, someone on Teams using Copilot agents there, to answer questions based on the data that was in SQL Server and was retrieved this way. So there we go, right? That's how you get SQL Server as a RAG source for your AI native applications like agents and other ones. Big takeaways of this one: RAG is a common approach, very common approach. This has been around for a few years, so is expected to be able for your application to support things like that. Fine-tuning a model is another approach that SQL is not involved in there, but just for your reference. Use RAG when data changes often, and again, you're using it to native applications, AI native applications. System stop procedure there, invoke external REST endpoint, is the key for most of the things that SQL Server does in terms of AI, because AI is an external element to SQL, so we have to talk to the AI server to get those embeddings and comparisons outside the vectors already in SQL. JSON functions to format the payload that's going to be sent as a prompt to the LLM, so the LLM will be able to reply to those. And always instruct the LLM to only answer based on the provided context, as you have seen in the payload. Once the information is back, you send back to the users, and that is your recipe that the exam expects you to understand. And make sure you go to Microsoft Learn later. There are Microsoft Learn content and hands-on exercises on those. Make sure you go in there and execute them, right? You can execute those things for free. If you have an Azure subscription, you can get an Azure SQL Server for free with low code, but all the low processing capabilities, but all the features. So that's the complete picture right there, and that's the end of it, Gaston.
Yeah, that is awesome. You did a really amazing job to explain in details, how these three domains coming into the picture together, all the three models. We covered those three models today. The models built sequentially. The model one was around the embeddings, provide the vector representations, and then go into the model two for the search capabilities. Excellent explanations from Armando on how you build the search, and then the model three that was RAG and building the RAG with SQL. So that was all for today. Remember that there's a lot of new sessions coming to prepare this exam. Remember that you can retrieve and prepare, and you have that URL to get the study guide, practice, get hands-on. It's really important to be hands-on on this. Go into the Microsoft Learn to complete all the models, take the practice assessment, and schedule your exam. Remember that, it is going to be 700 points to pass. That is not the same as 70% of the exam.
Yep.
Learn to use the Microsoft Learn platform, because you don't want to go at the last minute in the exam and trying to search in the Microsoft Learn. You need to know exactly the components of Microsoft Learn. That is kind of tips and tricks of the certification. And remember that you can get certified for free. So go to that URL and get your certification, get up and running. And remember that this is part of the 60 days of data and AI, powered by community, showing the community. Remember that it's key to share knowledge. And this was an amazing session. I really love the interactions in the chat, and I was really excited to share this session with my good friend Armando today.
Well, it's good to be with you, brother.
Yeah. See you all, and see you on the next session. Appreciate the
Thanks
time
to
today.
the moderators then, again, right there on the YouTube channel. You guys rock. See you in the next one, Gaston.
Thank you all.
Thank you all for joining, and thanks again to our speakers. This session is part of a series. To register for future shows and watch past episodes on demand, you can follow the link on the screen or in the chat. We're always looking to improve our sessions and your experience. If you have any feedback for us, we would love to hear what you have to say. You can find that link on the screen or in the chat. And we'll see you at the next one.